Hello and welcome to another episode of the Goblin Ringleader podcast. I'm your host Jack, and today I'll be going over some coverage that we had last night. So last night, sorry, the coffee. Okay, so last night we went to plug slot. Let me go here. Plug slot.gg for all the grindy matchups. Profile. Alright, so this is the modern list I played last night. I went 3-1. We were 3-0 and we played in the finals. We decided not to split because I just don't like splitting, honestly. Sideboard felt really good. Every round I felt like I had the tools that I needed. Maybe at the end I could have brought in the meltdowns instead of the chalices, but if we go back, I could have done things more aggressively. But so yeah, the deck is basically the same as it's always been. We added the squee back to give it back the aggressive slant. Warren Instigator is back in the deck, making a comeback because Warren Instigator is pretty amazing into the control and very slow mid-range decks. If you're on the play and you have a Warren Instigator, you're going to be able to get an attack in usually before they can have their Bowmasters up. And that's a really big deal. So if you can just sneak some damage in with this Warren Instigator, you can throw a bunch of damage into play. Chain Whirler is a concession to Boros energy. It's just a tool we have to have now. Squee is something that I also want to try because we're adding Ignoble to the deck. This is a change that people have been telling me to try. So I wanted to try it out, and it felt pretty good last night. One Stomping Grounds, we shave a couple of fetches, and then we just play 3 Ignobles. This replaces the second Skirk, and we trim some of the Silver Bullet tutor targets. And last night we kind of were missing our third Munitions Expert, but Sting Scourger does a very good Munitions Expert impression. Sting Scourger is 2 mana unsummon on a 2/2, but you have to pay 4 at the upkeep or you sack it. MVP of last night was definitely Trash Master. Trash Master won me almost every single match that I played. No exaggeration. Round 1 versus Titan, I had my Trash Master in my opening hand, and it allowed me to shatter my opponent's amulets. Because I had an Ignoble and I was on the play, I was able to ramp out a Trash Master and then sack my fodder and hit the amulets. It didn't help that Val was missing land drops, but that was the line I had to play to, and I did. So Trash Master was the MVP of last night. What was the worst card in this deck last night? Chain Whirler was pretty bad. I'll be honest. Squee did work. Squee allowed me to close a couple games really fast. But I feel like having Chain Whirler is very important. We have a Chain Whirler to mop up all the X1s if my opponent goes wide. We have a Sting Scourger to bounce the super tall thing if my opponent just reanimates one thing. We have the Munitions Expert to kill something if it's in the middle of those two things. And then we have this highly aggressive slant that allows us to just really, really go crazy after them. Sorry, getting a spam call. I'm just gonna block it. Boom. Okay. Yeah, so the main deck feels really, really good. We were between 3 and 4 arenas. We went back to 4. Yeah, we should basic to get the 4th arena and Stomping Grounds in the deck. So the main deck feels pretty solid. The sideboard is really what I kind of want to talk about. No? Okay. So starting off, Chalice I think is in the best spot that it's ever been. Chalice and Leyline, actually both, are in amazing spots. So if you're playing a deck in Modern right now, it's most likely a graveyard deck in some form or fashion, whether it's a Faithless Looting deck, a Goryo's Vengeance deck, a Underworld Breach deck, a Dredge deck. uh, like any deck that's not strictly aggro or control is going to have some graveyard elements. Leyline of the Void is amazing because it just turns off all those things, but you know that, so we're going to go to the next card. Chalice, I think, is amazing because if you're not playing graveyard strategies in Modern, you're playing 0 mana acceleration because they just unbanned Mox Opal, so everybody's playing Mox Opal right now. So 3 Chalice, putting Chalice on 0 on the play is amazing. Also, sometimes I got Affinity by my Affinity player taking the play, and they had Ornithopter Opal in their hand and a tapped Indestructible land, but to play around Meltdown, they just pass. But I didn't have Meltdown in my hand. I had Chalice, so I went Chalice and 0, and they weren't able to cast their zeros anymore. The other cool thing about Chalice is it scales. So let's say you have a bunch of mana, right? You have the option to go Chalice on 0, Chalice on 1, Chalice on 2, Chalice on 3. If you're really, really mana flooded, you get Chalice on 3. And then you kind of just think, because you have Cavern and Vial, you can really name any number that you need. And whatever your opponent is bottled on, if you know that their deck plays a lot of 2s, you name 2. If you know that their deck is all 1-drops, you name 1. For the example of like Hammer is like all 1-drops. And so, or Death Shadow is an even better one. So you just name Chalice on 1, and you have a ley line against Shadow, and it feels really good. So these cards all kind of like slot together against different matchups. So Chalice, really good against the aggressive decks that are super 0 and 1 mana, 1-drop heavy. Dampening Sphere is amazing against the Storm decks, the big mana decks. All the Titan decks right now are playing Lotus Field, and Dampening Sphere is the best card against Lotus Field because they can't even really play it. They can play their Lotus Field to set up, but it doesn't feel good when you have a Leyline in play and you play a Dampening Sphere, or it doesn't feel good when your opponent has a Leyline in play and a Dampening Sphere, and then you have to look at your Lotus Field and your 2 lands and figure out if you want to sack those 2 lands and put them in the exile, or you just want to like wait on your Lotus Field. And so I love Dampening Sphere. It's tech against Storm, it's tech against Titan, which are 2 of my hardest matchups. It's really good against it's not really good against Eldrazi, but it's like okay against Eldrazi. It slows them down a little bit. Blood Moon is kind of hard on my mana. So I bring in Dampening Sphere as like my big mana hate, and it also like slows down a lot of decks. It's decent against Phoenix too, because it makes casting 3 1-mana spells costs 1, 3, 6. So they need 6 mana to cast 3 spells in 1 turn. So it slows down Phoenix a lot. Meltdown is pretty self-explanatory. If Chalice doesn't feel right, I bring in Meltdown. It's also a good catch-up mechanic. So sequencing-wise, you want to have your Meltdowns first. You want your opponent to throw a bunch of artifacts on the battlefield, and then you just Meltdown, hit all those artifacts. And then you play Chalice, and Chalice locks out the future artifacts. But you can't always control your draws. So sometimes I board in just the Chalices, and sometimes I board in just the Meltdowns. When I played Spike on stream when he was playing Core Tapper, I brought in the 3 Chalices and the 3 Meltdowns, and it just felt amazing because I had Chalice on 1, Chalice on 0, and Chalice on 1. And then I didn't even need the Meltdown because he just couldn't play the game. So that's an example of like what I'm talking about, where if you know what your opponent's game plan is, you can like cut off the essential avenues, and then you leave them with like the top end. But usually top end they're finishers, but they're usually finishers that synergize with your setup cards. So and then the last card's Rakdos Charm. So Rakdos Charm can hit the graveyard. So the 3 modes on Rakdos Charm are 2 mana instant, exile target graveyard, each creature deals 1 damage to their controller, and then destroy target artifact. So it shatters Mox. Shout out to my buddy Dom Striker for being the man and recommending Rakdos Charm. It's my flex slot. It was going to be Disruptor Flute. There's like a billion cards it could be, but Rakdos Charm hits Mox Opal and Belcher. It exiles a graveyard, which is just amazing. And then it can deal damage to my opponent if they go super wide and I need some burn, or if they just go infinite and the Splinter Twin or anything, then you just like insta kill them. So this is the sideboard I played last night, went 3-1, and we're just gonna go over to the YouTube, make sure everything's working over here. Perfect. Go over to the YouTube and we're going to, I'm sorry, Dom, sorry, May. I'm just going to commentate over this real quick. Shout out to NRG Series, the championship. Just happened at the NRG store. It was really cool to see all those championship players come down. Shout out to my buddy Blake. Blake's a legend. We play at his house sometimes with my buddy Mike and Ryan and my fellow Goblin and the fellow Izzet play or Wizards player. We got a good play test group. I call them the NRG guys. They're the NRG team. We got Team Flex Slot who play at NRG store, but we also got the NRG guys, which are just the local grinders who hit all the RCQs. And Blake's a experienced counterspell player. So we started off with the fetch land and pass. Opponent goes a Misty and pass. Goes Surveil Land. I see a Warren Instigator, and I have the combo in my hand. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is gonna take a push. This is gonna take some removal out of the hand. And at first he says it resolves, and I'm really happy because I'm like, okay, it's gonna die, but it resolves. So that means he doesn't have counter spells. Then he thinks about it, and he's like, well, can we walk it back? I forgot that the only removal I have is a spell snare. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's still I haven't done anything. I just cast it and you fetched. So I allow him to walk it back. We spell snare the Warren Instigator, which this Warren Instigator would have gone matron into Kiki Jiki, and I would have just had like a gigantic board. And I would have just been telling him you have to Toxic Deluge because I'm gonna have a billion guys. As is, I still have the Lord and the combo. So I'm kind of playing to the fact that he fetched Basic Island. So he has to have another land here. For a second, I thought he only had one land. He's just really thinking about which land to play. I guess he only has one. He thought scours to appear weak, which is a super underrated play. Thought scour to appear weak, then hit your land drop. Gonna fetch shock, unearth on the trespasser, targeting the instigator. And then the door opens and they're like, wait, you forgot to draw off your thought scour. Because if you go back, he milled 2 cards and then picked up his deck because he was shortcutting to fetch. However, he didn't draw off the thought scour. So yeah, so thought scour, then fetch shock, get the land. Everything still ends up the same. I'm trying to make sure that I understand Trespasser's ability. It does drain gain. I was curious if it was just drain or if it was drain gain, and it does say drain gain. So he gains 1, I lose 1. So I should be at 17. Boom. There we go. Because we walked it back. Just a little bit of we're going fast because we've played this matchup a billion times. But shout out to Coverage for catching the fact that he didn't draw off the Thought Scour. I would have never. I was doing sequencing for the next 3 turns, so I wasn't going to catch that. Harbinger on top. In my head, I'm like, holy shit! But I know he's gonna die. Something that this Harbinger is just gonna grab me a Ringleader and set up for the future, or a land even, so I can just cast my spells. But in commentary, they're screaming, he doesn't have any removal. He doesn't have any removal. And so what I'm thinking here is Slam, Snoop. I have a Trawler in my hand that I could play as a land. I decide not to play the land to try to surprise Blake into thinking that I can't combo next turn because I missed my land drop. There's the land. He thinks that it's going to happen the following turn, so he gets one turn to set up and double dig for a fatal push or something. But I'm doing the math in my head, and if he unearthed the trespasser instead of leaving up removal, when he knows that I play combo, that probably means that he doesn't have the ability to leave up removal, which means he doesn't have removal. So I'm going to take the line that's the most risky. The only thing this loses to is a bowmaster. He can have infinite counter spells. He can counter literally everything that I play. Okay, so he lets the Harbinger resolve. Now the one thing that I have to think about here is if he can just kill the Snoop in response to the target. So I'm going to pass, and I'm going to say, I take a second to think about this, because if I just go off here, he has 7 cards or 6 or 7 cards in hand. Yeah, 6 cards in hand. So if I just pass, he's incentivized to flash in the Bowmaster because he's the aggressor. He's going to try to kill my Harbinger, and now I go infinite. I'm going to tap to the Snoop to make a hasty copy of it. Then it just untapped. I'm going to tap that to target the Snoop. Do that 800 million times. The last one's going to tap to target the Harbinger. The Harbinger enters, changes the top card from a Kiki Jiki to a Sling Gang, and I drain him for 800 million. Ooh. Really, really, really close game. Came down to him not having actual counterspell and me playing around a Bowmaster. So part me thinking about what I could lose to, which is always important. If you're ahead in a situation and your opponent has cards and mana up, a lot of the times what you want to do is you try to ask yourself, okay, so what can I do in this situation to advance my position without compromising what I'm doing? So like, make sure that you don't expose a weakness while moving forward for the win. So kind of took it slow there, played the combo, make my opponent act, because I believe that I'm of the chess philosophy where if your opponent moves first, they lose. So if we have both set up our board states, and an easier example is if you go to combat math. You have a board state, I have a board state. We both have pretty much equal stuff. You attack me, I get to block, preferably for me, take the damage, and then kill you on the crackback, right? So the person who acts first is always going to be in trouble. So when I combo and he says, oh, that's fine, I'm not going to take the first action. I'm just going to let them take the first action, because then they need 2 pieces of interaction in order to kill my combo. And I have, and they only have 1 black source. That was my point. So super removal heavy, super aggressive deck here. You're going to go Thought Scour, unearth either a Frog, a Harbinger, a Graveyard Trespasser, an Oculus, or just hard cast a Murktide. Lots of removal. So we got a total of 2 Sting in the Stupors, 2 Shoot the Sheriffs, 3 Fatal Push, and that's all the removal, and an Ottawa. That's all the removal in the deck. Can board in 2 Bowmasters. Wait a second. Oh, this must not be an updated list because the Bowmasters are only in the sideboard. I'm trying to read. I don't think I see a Bowmaster in the main. Okay, so he must not have updated his list before starting today. But anyways, 2 Oakish Bowmasters in the sideboard, a Brazen Borrower, 3 Consigns. Actually, wouldn't bring the Consigns. 2 Deluge. So just cut as many counterspells as you can. And yeah, this matchup was a lot of fun. Honestly, that first hand was 1 land, a ley line, but unplayable. One of those things where I could just try to win off the back of a ley line, but I feel like, I have a better shot if I go for a playable 6, and there's always a better hand out there, especially with the London Mulligan. Yeah, and then I realized that's the bottom card, so if there's 7 here already, that's going to be a problem. Okay, so now we found a Cavern and a Ringleader. This hand does not have a ley line. It's just lands, Matron, Ringleader. And I'm thinking he's probably just going to go fetch land pass 2 turns in a row. And so I could dig for a ley line here, but I feel like, oh, the top deck vial makes this hand a billion times better because and he thinks about this for a second. He's gonna respond with it on the stack to try to dig for a force negation. But yeah, so now on turn 3, I can tutor for a Snoop, put a Snoop into play, or tutor for a 2-drop of choice and put it in play. I could get an Instigator and sneak it in. Vial makes your matrons a lot better because as long as what you're tutoring for is either a 1 or a 2, your vial can be on that number and you can just cheat it right into play. Opponent is going to Thought Scour in response to the vial, mill 2, and then draw. So mills Fatal Push counterspell, which is good for me, and then draws Fatal Push, not good for me. The vial does resolve on tap of keep. Consider Murktide Region. Play a Marsh Flats. Boom. Play a Bloodstained and pass after taking up the vial to 1. Yeah, so this hand is really slow. I have 2 spells left. They can't be countered, but they're very low impact. If we mulligan to 5 in this hand to find a ley line, and we just jam ley line and try to like force the combo, we're probably out of cards. And knowing the hand that Blake has, I'd lose that position. So I feel like this keep was fine. It's just pretty slow against the Oculus, especially when they can turn 3 it. Turn 3 is not as scary as turn 2, however, it's scary. Excuse me. I do have 0 flyers in my modern deck. I have more flyers in goblins in my standard and pioneer deck because Dropkick Bomber gives all my goblins flying. But I don't think that Dropkick Bomber is good enough for modern. I really want to be aggressive in modern, but it never really works. Binning the Stomping Ground. Bidding the Stomping Ground because we're trying not to draw lands here. We have Ringleader and I think it's Matron, Ringleader, 3 lands in hand. Yeah. Oh, and Trawler. Okay, so we do have a Boggart Trawler, which is the Bog. Now, Matron, I'm not worried until I look at my deck. Because I have a Sting Scourger, which can unsummon this Oculus, and then I'm just like so far ahead. But I have cut my Sting Scourger to my dismay. That's my eye flick there. My light grimace is my sideboarding decision coming back to bite me. However, just grab a Snoop, present lethal next turn. If my Ringleader hits a Harbinger, I go Violent Snoop at the end step, untap upkeep, Vial goes to 3, draw, play land, Ringleader. Ringleader's 4 looks. If we include the draw, I have 5 looks at a Harbinger. Or a Matron, because Matron can Vial in, grab the Harbinger, and the next turn I can combo kill. As is. Chump block. Just to save myself some life. Put a Snoop into play. The Harbinger's on top. Murder, as expected. You always expect the goblins to die. The goblins never live. The whole point of living is to die. Uptick 3 on the Vial. Draw the Harbinger. Now I'm thinking. I think we just go ringleader. Ringleader's gonna trigger. Gonna. I have counterspell. So he's able to cast it and target it, but then it just gets countered, which is actually a good thing for him because then he puts another card in the graveyard for future Oculuses. I have a Matron and a Sling Gang. And here, I think I make a blunder here because I could bog him. What is his hand? Is it Unearth, Counterspell? I believe that's a Fatal Push is the bottom card. I go Matron for something else. I could just bog him here. So block A 2/2, take 7, go to 7, bog him. See, but that's the issue is I don't know there's another Oculus face down. And I blocked both of them. And just like my gut told me to switch the ringleader and the matron. Like I just instinctively did it. I didn't even think about it. And it traded with the Oculus, which was bad because then he could unearth it. But if I just go trawler here, no, I would have to go to damage, still trade with the same one I traded with the ringleader, not activate the vial, second main in response to the unearth, exile his graveyard. So he has 7, still 5 in the air, and I still die in 2 turns. I feel very behind either way. This is just well played by Blake. Like, super patient, calculating, pushing his advantage, making sure that he protects his threats. And this Oculus just making 2/2s is ridiculously strong. Super, super, super undervalued. So the value of the eyeball. So the last remaining card from the ringleader in hand that Blake knows about is the Sling Gang. Then the munitions expert is the card I tutored from the matron. Block. Now, if I don't block with this matron, I get to sequence things a little bit better. I get to keep a 1/1. The ringleader dies. The matron dies. I take 5, go to 9. Unearth the Oculus, and I'm dead in the air the next turn. So then I have to hope and pray that it will, but for day I'm still killed. Yeah, it's a lot of 2/2s. File goes to 4. So I'm trying to figure out if I can kill one of these things with the munitions expert and then block and sack to drain gain to stay alive for one more turn. If I can stay alive for one more turn, I might be able to pull some stuff off. But it's not looking good. I'm still running through the permutations. Yeah, the fetch is fine. Even though it is awkward. I'm dead to 2/2s and a flyer anyways. 9 and 8 are the same. So my sequence here is I'm gonna Harbinger to bog him. No, sorry, other bogger. Harbinger to grab. It's not good. I'm thinking about grabbing a second Sling Gang just to try to like chain things together. I really should have left the Sting Scourger in the deck, taken out the Krenko or something. Because just grab another Sling Gang. Because the Krenko doesn't really do anything. It's way too slow. Whereas the Sting Scourger gets me out of a situation where he has an 18/18 Murktide. And nothing else really does. Blake's got infinite damage here. I can Vial in the Sling. So he's thinking, does he even need to attack with all of them? He's going to review the face down cards that he's got. Thinks about it, looks at his hand, realizes if he flips this one face up, it's lethal. I'm doing the math. I'm like, okay, well, I can kill one and stay alive for one turn, but I'm very dead. Yeah. Declare attacks, activate after attacks before blocks, activate, put Sling Gang into play, make 2/1/1 goblins, flash in Munitions Expert to try to deal 5 damage. If I hadn't blocked with the Matron, this still works. Actually, no, it doesn't, because he's going to respond on the stack. I think if I had one more goblin, I still get to deal an eyeball, but I don't get to survive because I lose the life gain. And that's what I point to there. Game 3. A perfect example of why you mulligan to 5 for Leyline. You know, that was a slow hand that I kept because I don't know why I kept it. Oh, it was the Cavern. I remember looking at the Cavern being like, oh my god, this is really good against his mono counterspell deck. And then I top decked the Vial, and I thought I'd be able to combo fast, but he does bring in a great deal of removal. I will say the whole point of ley lines is if you bring them in, you have to mulligan to them. So give yourself a stipulation if you're playing ley lines every time, like unless you have a hand that just wins by itself, mulligan to the ley line, because more often than not, if you're inclined to bring it in, the deck you're trying to bring it in against is very, very susceptible to it. So I look at the Krenko, I go, you know what, Krenko, you definitely were supposed to be a Sting Scourger there. So I put the Sting Scourger back in the deck, and I'm looking at that Chalice, like, Chalice, you could be something else. You see, so we cut the Chalice and put the Sting Scourger back in, and we leave the Krenko and we don't bring in a second card. Okay. Because if I was able to tutor for a Sting Scourger there, I feel like it takes so much less damage. You can't cast the second Oculus. The first Oculus fueled the second Oculus. So that was just slight metagame, slight decision-making error on my part. I think game 3, I'm hoping to replicate what happened game 1. Trying to hydrate, get my wires lubricated, because the brain works better when hydrated. Excuse me. Pop out the chat. Boom. Appreciate you. What's up, Dom? What's up, Sal? Thank you so much for dropping in. Yeah, so taking a mold to 6. I think the first hand was also 1 land, but that's fine. You know, you gotta put the bad hands away, and you gotta find better hands. There's always a better hand out there. You just gotta not give up. All right, so this hand is literally perfect. I want to, like, when I go through this. So it's Vile, Snoop, Harbinger, 3 lands. One of them is a Cavern, and we have a Matron. So it's a 7-card hand with the Cavern Vile start, the combo, and a Matron to grab a Ringleader or removal if we need it. We do not have a ley line. This is a hand that I feel like I can win with. We don't want to turn to the Snoop. We want to surveil. So we bottom the 3rd land. We go turn 1 Cavern, Vile, pass it over. Now, his hand is almost all counterspells. It's 2 lands, Stern Scolding, counterspell, Consider, is what I think. And so passes a land, plays a land and then passes, untaps, upkeeps, and draws. I just play this fetch land that I top deck, so now I have 3 lands. I still get to get to surveil. Excuse me. And the cool thing about this is not playing the Snoop on two gives Blake the opportunity to tap out for a frog and um, take the role of the aggressor. And so he's much less concerned about dying to a combo. And if I'm able to just lure him into a like sense of security where he taps out 2 turns in a row, I can just end step vial for 2, put a Snoop into play, untap, take a vial to 3 combo. This sequence is also good because it allows me to act like I'm going to combo, but I could also just play value lines into value lines. Next turn, I'm going to matron for a ringleader. And if my combo gets disrupted, I have this uncounterable source of card advantage in the ringleader. Um, and then I can just play a value line. And if he can't stop my value line, I just kill him with normal creatures. And if he does use his removal on my creatures, then I can deal him infinite damage with the combo. It was literally the top card. You love it when your surveil land is the top card. So in this position, yeah, we're looking for any spell. Goes to 2 and I'll draw. It's another matron. Matron's amazing here. Get a basic, play a matron. So I'm just going to shortcut, grab basic mountain, then grab the card. So Instigator is really enticing here. It could keep the frog from attacking forever. If he doesn't have removal, he just has to keep the frog back as a blocker. But I realized that if he does have Bowmaster, it's like the biggest blowout in the world, and I've wasted a matron and all my tempo. So I'm gonna grab a backup Snoop, telegraphing to him that I do have the combo. However, I didn't play it on turn Snoop on turn 2, so that tells him that I probably don't have a backup Snoop. That's the only Snoop that I have. Whereas we know I do have a backup. And so he's gonna kill this Snoop and then kind of feel okay and secure for the next Snoop that comes down, and then we have the opportunity to combo kill him. Blake is a really interesting choice here. He's got 7 cards in hand. One of them is a Fatal Push, 2 are lands. He's got a Stern Scolding, a Consider, I'm trying to read the other ones. I think he's got a Fatal Push and 4 counter spells, or at least 1 cantrip. I'm saying I will chump block with this matron all day if you'd let me. And he says, well, now that I know that you're going to block, I'll jump it. And I say, that's fine. This can keep you from casting an Oculus. Pitch a counterspell. That does make sense. Pitching another counterspell? Nope, just that one. And then draws a counterspell. End step, put a Snoop into play. I'm hoping for a matron or something value-oriented. It's an Arena of Glory, which is really good because that's a land. He fatal pushes the Snoop. Snoop's gone. Now we know that I have Snoop, Harbinger, Matron. There's my last cards. Untap. In the upkeep, I have to figure out, do I put this vial to 3 or keep it on 2 and try to win the following turn? I decide to go on 3 because now I'm going to try to play a value line. I'm going to play a Matron. Matron's going to tutor for a Ringleader. Ringleader's going to go grab something. Hopefully 1 or 2 goblins. 3 or 4 is like a rarity, but 1 or 2 is all we need. A card that replaces itself and is a 2/2 haste. It's pretty decent. Uncounterable Ringleader. He's like, I have 6 cards and I can't cast them. And that's really painful. Ringleader triggers. Boom. So we get a Squee and a Sling Gang. 2 very aggressive cards, which are perfectly panning out with my I'm going to take this slow and grind strategy. He's going to have to use his removal on these 2 cards, or he's just going to die to 1/1s. So now we're tied up at 16. I know that he can just discard his cards to Frog to cast Innocuous. So to push him, if he's got an awkward hand, I'm gonna attack with the Ringleader and the Matron. Considers in response, looking for removal. Bins Innocuous, because that's good. Then draws the Consider. And then I consider again. Bin a land, draw a land. No blocks, goes to 13, and I pass. Untap upkeep. Interesting choice here. He has the opportunity to cast Innocuous, hold up Counterspell, or hold up Counterspell and Bowmasters. If he plays a land, you can do both. You can do Counterspell plus Bowmaster, and then can't cast Oculus. If he goes for the Oculus plan, I feel like he has a good amount of blockers. But I have so much damage next turn. If he taps out, I think I just can win. So it's 3 blockers. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coming at him. He can block 4 of it. So that's 3 coming through. I sack the 2 that he blocks. Oh, it's 3 blocks. So I can't kill him next turn, but I can put him in a really tough spot where I have a board and he's in a awkward predicament. So he discards a bunch of cards to draw. Plays the land, allows me to pass. Yeah. I was gonna say, I think he missed his draw. Oculus, untap, upkeep, draw. Oh, and yeah, if he hadn't jumped the Frog, he could have cast the Oculus. That's really tough. 2, 3. Okay, so he totally could have discarded the rest of his cards to cast an Oculus, make 2 blockers. Buddy Mike walking up saying he's got to go to the office tomorrow. He's got a dip. So we're like, dude, see you next week. Sometimes we go to Portillo's afterwards. Shout out to Portillo's for being awesome. All right, so I'm doing sequencing in my head. He left up Bowmasters, which I think is smart because I could just combo kill him here if he tapped out for the Oculus. As is, I'm going to play through some removal, play a Sling Gang, enters, but trigger on the stack. Bowmaster target the Sling Gang. In response to the target, I'll put a Pashlik into play. Pashlik reads, whenever another goblin dies, I get to deal a damage to any target. So then targeting Sling Gang, or trigger on the stack targeting Sling Gang, sack target Blake, drain gain. I gain 1, he loses 1. Then when the Pashlik Mons trigger deals a damage to any target, I'm going to target the Bowmaster. So I drain gain, and I'm able to shoot down his Bowmaster's blocker. Then I get the 2 tokens. I can attack and get in for 4. And now the tides of this game have turned. Yep, the tides have turned immensely. It's gone from an even race to I'm going to win next turn. And I have a Harbinger and a Snoop left in my hand, and I could try to combo kill. However, I feel like the aggro plan is more like guaranteed here. I can, in my upkeep, activate Vial, put a Sling Gang on top, go to my draw step, draw Sling Gang. Each goblin that's not Sling Gang or Pashlik Mons is 2. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'll use my cursor. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then you include the Sling Gang tokens. 12, 14. The Pashlik is the last one that deals 2. So that's 16 plus the Sling Gang is 17. So I've set access to 17 points of damage. Oh, and I didn't count the Harbinger that I used to tutor. So that's 19 points of damage without combat. If we factor in combat, it gets pretty bad. That's the math that I just did. I double checked there. I had done the math internally, but I wanted to double check with a finger count, make sure that I wasn't going to punt. Blake's moving very quickly because Blake is sensing that this game is either over, is going to be over one way or the other. Play another eyeball. Discard 3 cards. Discard 3 cards. Cast another eyeball. My head's going, whoa, I'm going to win this match because I'm looking at him count his graveyard like that's an eyeball. He's going to cast an eyeball. And if he taps out for another eyeball, I think this game is over. Just going to jump the frog. Go to combat and attack. I have no effects. I want to see how much damage he does. You can discard 2 cards still and jump the frog so he can heal 3 in the air. Really close games. Really, really close games. Frog goes to 3. Frog goes to 4. 4 counters. I'm going to take 5, go to 9. Opponent draws the fatal push, but they don't have a fetch land. Blake is trying to figure out if it's worth it to hold up fatal push and counterspell, or to play another Oculus. If he plays another Oculus, he has 4 blockers. But the Sling Gang line doesn't matter because blockers, it takes it completely out of combat. So I pass. He does his Oculus trigger. Activate before my draw step in my upkeep. Harbinger. Put the Sling Gang on top. I've already done the math. Go to draw. I will like to cast this Sling Gang. Trigger on the stack. Trigger on the stack. Tries to kill it. Looks at his fatal push. On the stack for the Sling Gang, looks at the fatal push, realizes even the Pashalik is 3. So the fatal push really not being able to hit these mana inefficient cards with its ultra mana efficient line or text. Sling Gang resolves. Trigger. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I count. I don't even need the sling. I don't even need the tokens. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 just with the Pashlik with the trigger on the stack. We're still able to get there. Shout out to my buddy Blake. Yeah, double Oculus and Fatal Push in the hand. Fatal Push just being super awkward. He's saying, I probably should have just like discarded more cards to cast the Oculus, but he didn't want to tap out because I could just combo kill him. And if he would have tapped out, I would have combo killed him. So that was just that was a really good exchange. I drew pretty well. The ringleader hit what I needed to draw, and yeah, that was awesome. Okay, so that was round 1. Now I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick, and we're gonna queue up round 2, and we'll just start here. Let you guys look at the graphics. Okay. Oh. Shout out to NRG Series and NRG Store. Super looking forward to the February 1st and I am going to be a part of Team Gummy, which is Alex, Luke, and my friend Brandon. All right. Now, this is the finals. We're both undefeated. There's one other undefeated set. My buddy Devin Slater. Shout out to my legacy mentor, Devin Slater, and my gym mentor, David Gorilla. I know I butchered that name, and I'm sorry, but I want to call him Gorilla because he's a fucking beast. This man in the gym, he may wear the glasses, he may have the collared shirt, but he's a beast in the gym. He's my lifting partner, or not. I can't say my partner. We haven't gone to the gym in a while, but we used to have a whole group that would go, and we play basketball and everything. But things got really cold, and that's how it goes. So, got shout out to David for being awesome. We play test all the time. Back when modern RCQ season was going on, I was privileged enough to be a part of the testing group. Yeah, just all around great guy, super smart. If you want to talk to somebody about like lines and like analytics, David's the guy. He's super numbers oriented, and I love numbers. So it's that's it's always a great time when I play against him. Okay, so it looks like I kept a hand with no untapped land. Lead it off on a vial. I'm assuming this is like some version of control, but I don't know what David's on because I haven't played him in a very long time. Usually I'm doing bad and he's doing good. So I don't realize he's on breach until this moment. And I realize how horrible my hand was. I have a chain whirler, 2 ignobles, an arena of glory, another trawler, and a munitions expert. The munitions expert can't kill anything anytime soon. And I'm going to die to this graveyard combo deck very quickly. My keep was something where I was like, okay, I'm on the play. I can turn to this chain whirler, but then I started thinking about it, and I really can't because I need another red source in order to cast the chain whirler, and the vial only goes up to 1 on turn 2, so I'll still be casting the chain whirler on turn 3. It's just such a bad rate. This is when I'm realizing how bad my keep was. And you have to try these things. You have to explore the bad lines, and if you don't try them, you'll never know whether or not it was good or not. So this was definitely a mulligan. He draws the Mox Amber, which is really very strong. Emery. I'm gonna respond to the Emery trigger. I'm a little slow there. This is my decision point. I'm like, okay, well, if I have a point to interact, it's right now. I have to kill this Emery before he can do anything. I want him to have the least amount of information as possible before I do something. Excuse me. So I'd like to kill the Emery. He has a sink into stupor. And so this will force him, if he has some interaction, to use it, which is good for me if I top deck combo pieces or aggressive threats. So he will end up using the sink into stupor. Sink into stupor on the ignoble, which is smart because it keeps me from having mana, and then the munitions just deals the 1. Then the Emery trigger resolves, and it's pretty bad. Plays another opal. The Emery trigger is, I think it's land, Malevolent Rumble. Land, Malevolent Rumble. Untap upkeep. I decide to keep the vial on 1 because I don't have any green mana to cast my ignobles, and I don't want them to just rot in my hand. Also, I don't have a lot of things to take up my vial for. Like, I don't have any good card advantage cards right now. I'm trying to figure out if I should bog him now. He doesn't have any good cards in the graveyard. And I realize, it really doesn't matter because if he has Grinding Station, I die next turn if he draws Breach, even with an empty graveyard. I'll play the Ignoble with the Vial to give the Munitions Expert an Exalted trigger to punch in for 2. Put him on a clock and hope that he doesn't top deck Breach. I respect it. Or Malevolent Rumble finds the Breach. That's what it is. I thought he top decked the Breach, but no, Malevolent Rumble finds the Breach, which is really good. Underworld Breach is this card is banned in Legacy. It's so good. I would love I would love to see it banned in Modern just because Mox Opal got unbanned. They're like, "You know what? Mox Opal's fine, but Underworld Breach, that's too bad. That's too much." I'm not calling for the ban. I'm just laughing at it. Now my opponent has established a loop. So if you don't know, Underworld Breach is you may cast spells from your graveyard with Escape. Either Escape is exile 3 cards from your graveyard in addition to paying their mana costs. So Grinding Station, when an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you untap it, and then you tap it to sacrifice an artifact to mill 3. So what he's doing is he played a Mox Opal. He tapped the Mox Opal for a color of mana, red in this instance. Then uh, grind and then played Grinding Station. Grinding Station trigger on the stack to untap it. You tap, sack the Mox Opal. Now your Mox Opal's in your graveyard. You mill 3 cards. The trigger to untap resolves, untapping your Grinding Station. Then you exile the 3 cards that you milled, as long as they're not combo cards, to recast the Mox Opal. The Mox Opal then enters, untap trigger on the stack. You sack the Opal to the Grinding Station. But before you sack it, you tap it for another red. This way, you've established a loop. You are making a red and milling 3 cards straight into exile to recast your Opal every single loop. This eventually either finds Thassa's Oracle or Grape Shot and wins the game. I see the Grape Shot. I'm playing through it because I want to see the win cons and his deck configuration. If he's a bigger deck than I realize, and he plays a lot of like big threats that his like alternate way of winning is doing something else, I'll see that. But it looks like his deck's very straightforward. The only thing that's not a 1 or a 2 are Emery, Grinding Station, Underworld Breach. Everything else is a 1, or I guess it's Sync and Malevolent Rumble as well. So it's Sync, Malevolent Rumble, Emery, Grinding Station, Underworld Breach. All the rest of his deck is 0 and 1 mana artifacts and setup pieces. So I'm going straight for my slow dirtly cards. My Ignobles are coming out. My Vials are coming out. All these cards that just take a little bit of time to build up value, it's just not worth it because the Breach deck is just so explosive. I need to have almost all of my hate cards. So we're going to cut 3 Ignoble Hierarch. We're going to cut the Sting Scourger can come out. 2 Instigators should have come out, but I didn't take them out. The Chain Whirler's coming out because it was really bad there. Trash Master is amazing. And the 4 Vials. So we have 3 Ignoble, 4 Vial, 1 Sting Scourger. For 4 Leyline, 3 Chalice, and then 1 Rakdos Charm is what I end up on. But I should definitely have brought in Meltdown. Meltdown. If we just go Chalice, Meltdown, I know we don't really get to have Leyline to exile their graveyard constantly, but being able to like Trawler to exile their stuff after we've destroyed it is good. What the commentary said, shout out to Dom and May doing amazing commentary, was I could bring in all 15 cards, and it's true. I didn't even think about that. It was between Meltdown and Chalice, and then I was definitely bringing in the Ley Lines. Those were my 7 cards to board. But I was looking at Dampening Sphere and trying to debate whether or not it's better or worse than Chalice or Meltdown. And I decided that Chalice is the best. It goes like Chalice is like the best if my opponent has nothing, right? And they just have 0s and 1s in their hand. I go Chalice on 0, Chalice on 1, the game ends. Meltdown's really good if I'm behind, but it's really bad if I play Chalice. So Meltdown naturally gets worse because Chalice is as good as it is. Dampening Sphere is like the 3rd best card, and then Rakdos Charm is like the 4th best card. So I decided to go 3 Chalice, 4 Leyline, and a Rakdos Charm, just because Rakdos Charm is the flexibility of like randomly spiking me a game if something crazy happens. But yeah, that's how I decided to board. And looking back, I should have taken out. So we only took out 8 cards, right? We should have also taken out the Squee, the 2 Warren Instigators, and the Skirk. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then we should also cut. We can cut both the Munitions Experts. So that's 5 more cards. bring in the second Rakdos Charm, and bring in all the damaging spheres. So we have from Rakdos Charm down, board in, take out 3 Ignoble, a Skirk, 4 Vile, so that's 8 cards, 2 Munitions Experts, a Stink Scourger, a Warren Instigator. So that's 10, 13. Yeah, that's how I do it. Maybe leave the Stink Scourger. This hand's amazing. We have a Instigator, which is actually really bad because I'm like, after the match, I was thinking about it, and they have Tamio, they have Emery, they have a billion cards that are 1/2s that they can power out super aggressively. But this hand has a ley line, so I'm very tempted to try it. And we do. It's also my 6, which is crazy. This is a crazy keep because I don't have a second red source for this Instigator at all. My turn 1 Surveil land was to find my second red source. The top card's a ley line, so I just bin it. My hand is the land, Instigator, Matron, Trash Master. Trash Master is amazing if I can cheat it into play with Instigator. But oh my god. If I don't top deck a red source, this game is so over, and I'm already down a game. So this hand, both these hands have been highly suspect by me. But we're doing testing. I don't play against Breach a lot. It's one of those things where if you don't know what you're playing against, you don't really know what hands you want. And I definitely just need to play against David more. I need to play against Breach more in general. That's why I'm so excited to be back with modern coverage. Shout out to NRG Series and NRG Store for the amazing coverage. You see the names down there, Dom and May, both amazing people. And I know we actually got Haviva in the back, so shout out to Haviva for doing the awesome work, keeping everything running behind the scenes. I'm gonna fetch a basic, play the Instigator. Bippity boppity boop. Fascinating. So now I have to hope that my opponent doesn't have a blocker. And I know they have a Malevolent Rumble in their hand because that's like the best card. If they have a Malevolent Rumble, it just like, I don't want to say it answers all their problems, but it really helps. Puts the cards in the graveyard. Never mind, there's no graveyard. It picks up a Haywire Might out of the exile pile when you mill it. Play an Opal, play a Springleaf Drum. Have 2 mana. Play Malevolent. So there's the blocker. And I kind of just take it slow and I play through the blocker. Take my time. Don't be too hasty. I don't have many options, but that's just like how you have to do it sometimes is you take your time, you try to play through as much as you can. Especially if your opponent's just jumping with their mana source. I know he has access to a billion mana here, but I have to hope. Is that an Ashiok in his hand? Oh, baby. Next time he looks at that hand, I am going to be very interested. David does a great job of keeping his hand away from the camera. My hand's like always on view, but David's got a good. I also have a coverage mindset because I stream, so my brain's always like, can they see my cards? It's not that's an Emery. Okay, I thought that was an Ashiok Nightmare Muse or Nightmare Render, the one that keeps your opponents from searching their library. And oh my god, is that card good against me? Being able to turn off my fetch lands and all my tutors are so good. Is so good. Looking, trying to figure out. Looking at the Sling Gang, looking at the Ringleader. Looking at the Sling Gang, looking at the Ringleader. I really think now looking back that if I put this Sling Gang into play. Oh, yeah, because they jumped, David jumped. Okay, so we're setting up for next turn. If I grab a Sling Gang, and I just do double Sling Gang things, later 2 turns later, we're gonna see I'm a little bit short on damage, and that second Sling Gang would have been very important. So David has the option to make a construct, tap the construct for a mana, have access to another mana, have 2 mana, play Emery. Oh, no, Emery's 3. So David is on purely construct time. I'm gonna shock myself, play the Trash Master. This might have been a little bit hasty. No, that's not true because this allows me to shatter the construct that is chump blocking the Instigator. So I shatter it with the Matron. Instigator trigger. Now, if this was a Sling Gang, I could shatter all 3 of his artifacts here. Snoop, Harbinger, which is actually not the greatest. I mean, it is good if I put the Snoop into play instead of the Matron, which I do not. Thus, because here's the thing, if I put the Snoop into play instead of the Matron, I can still sack the Ringleader to Shadow the Opal, but then the Snoop and the Trash Master are 2 different Pithing Needle targets. And this line will give him another turn. Yeah, this line will give him another turn with the ability to interact with my Snoop. Whereas if I put it into play instead of that Matron, I'd have Matron, Harbinger, Snoop in my hand, play Snoop, see the top card. He took out the Haywire Might, which is that's a punt, and you hate to see it for sideboarding. It's one of the frustrating things. Sometimes your brain just turns off when you're sideboarding, and you're like, "What's the chaff? What can I shave?" And sometimes you take out and port. I do it. I did it in the last match against Oculus when you take out your Sting Scourger against the Murktide deck, but he has a Pithing Needle, so he names Trash Master. Now I sit up straight because I've realized that putting the Matron into play is going to lose me this sequence. Because he's going to be able to grab a con. He didn't make a construct, right? Tutor, 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 tutor. End step untap. Just floats a mana. Okay. Plays another Urza Saga. Was thinking for a second. Plays the Shadow Spear from hand. That's what it was. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, I should have put the Snoop into play. That's what the head flick was. I've done the math. I'm gonna lose to this life linking construct that's huge. Also, Sting Scourger. If I had Sting Scourger in the deck instead of this Instigator, I know I wouldn't have been able to chuck the Trash Master into play, but I'd be able to unsummon the construct. Make a construct. Blocks, sack to drain gain, puts to 8. Even this line is risky. I should have just went to combat, attacked, dealt 6, played Snoop, passed. Said, you can't kill me in 1 turn. I have a Trash Master, so your Unholy Heat can't kill my thing. Your Unholy Heat can't kill my Snoop. And I would have been able to sneak this game. Very close. Hindsight's 2020. This is why we analyze, because then later when I play, I know even though Sling Gang feels good here, with the trample, the Sling Gang does nothing. And I've just wasted another turn of important tempo. I have to go no blocks. I've realized that I no longer can kill him in one turn cycle, and now I desperately need an arena of glory, and the top deck is not an arena. Now, if I take a deep breath and I'm not flustered, I see that I can. Here, let's take a deep breath. Let's not be flustered. I have another ley line in my hand, Stomping Ground, Harbinger, Snoop. If I think May was saying this, and last night I was trying to do the math, but now that I'm rested and I woke up, I can do this math. I play the Snoop, I play the Harbinger. It doesn't matter what the Harbinger puts on top, but it should be a Sling Gang, because Sling Gang allows me to have 2 Sling Gangs playing around in Unholy Heat. I go to combat. I attack with all of my guys. 2, 4, 6. Here, we'll count. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't sack to drain gain with the Sling Gang on the Trash Master. But then this is how my brain went. So yeah, so let's best case scenario, right? This is 12. They block the Trash Master. I sack. No, block the Trash Master. That's fine. Go to damage. 3 plus 6 is 9. He goes to 7. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goblins. So that's 15. The reason I feel like this attack is not, and the reason it doesn't work in my mind, he blocks the Trash Master. So if I attack with everything, he blocks the Sling Gang, because then I have to sack the Sling Gang. No, because if the Snoop is so in this scenario, we put Sling Gang on top. With that, he blocks Trash Master. We have now a decision to make. Do we sack the Trash Master before damage to drain gain for 1, but giving up on 4 extra points of damage? Or do we lose that 1 point of damage after combat and let the Trash Master die? So we probably just let the Trash Master die. And then unblocked is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've played 10 or 9, and then I can sack 10 for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 points of damage. I'm 1 short, which is what I counted 3 times. And the issue is, even if I don't put another Sling Gang on top, if I attack with everything, he blocks the Sling Gang, which takes away my ability to double my damage. So I can't attack with the Sling Gang. And then if I attack without the Sling Gang, the attack of just the 2/2, the 3/3, and the Trash Master is bad because he blocks the Trash Master. Same issue as before. Do I give up on 1 point of reach? Or because if he does nothing, it is 16, but it's not, and that's the tough part. So if he blocks the Trash Master and I don't attack with the Sling Gang, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I sack this, it's even less. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I sack the Sling or the Trash Master before damage is dealt. So I don't attack with the Sling, right? Which was that's a punt because I can just put another Sling Gang on top and make the Snoop my Sling Gang. So if we do that and we attack with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, he blocks the Trash Master. We don't sacrifice it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 still. Then I sack for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh, is that how we do it? Put another Sling Gang on top. Yeah, see, I did punt. This is why we count 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 6, 10, 12. Yes. We attack. Blocks the Trash Master. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, I counted without the Trash Master dying. 1, 2, so we know this is 12. And we have 2 extra guys in play. They block 3 of it, so they take 9. They go to 7. 12, 13, 14, 15. So they take 9. 3, 5. I know this is infuriating to watch, I'm sure. 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, so they block 1. And if I don't sack it, then I don't get to 16. But if I sack specifically the Trash Master, then I don't deal 15, making the sack for the 16th irrelevant. It's a really tough spot that I put myself in because I didn't put the Snoop into play 2 turns ago. So that was just me sequencing very poorly. I wanted to run through the math because I thought watching it last night that it was 15, and I heard May say that she was able to count. They were able to count 16, and so my brain was hoping that I could somehow get there. And I should just hold this Harbinger. It's another thing that I do wrong here, is I just play a tap land. Is I shock myself, go to 7, so that it makes it even harder for me to live through this construct. He can get another opal and make another construct. That's 3, 4. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 if we include the construct and the opal. That's an 11, 12 trampler. A 12, 12 trampler with lifelink. This Trash Master would have been really good. And this would be the turn to combo if I put the Snoop into play last turn. I really need it to be like something that it's not here. Like, I'm like Skirk. We could do Skirk if I have a good card, but I don't. I'm really tanking. Took out the Sting Scourger. Looking at the Squee. Really, 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 really hoping that I'm doing this math wrong, but I do the math again. I can't attack with these 2. I can't attack with this. Yeah, I'm doing the math if the Snoop is a Sling Gang. And it's 15. So I don't attack with the Sling Gang, it's even less. Don't attack with the Trash Master, it's even less. It just goes downhill really fast. I should not put a Kiki-Jiki on top. I should put a Sting Scourger on top. But hindsight's 2020. I might also want to board in a second like artifact removal, like a Art Goblin that shatters, just for Pithing Needle, because I feel like I really don't like Crater Maker. Like, Crater Maker's good, don't get me wrong. Amazing against Eldrazi. Can kill an Emrakul. If you didn't know that, Crater Maker is a 2-mana goblin that takes down Emrakul. Destroy target colorless non-land permanent. He just throws himself at the big spaghetti monster and it blows up. Maybe that's why it was raining spaghetti and meatballs in that one movie. Interesting. But yeah, no, I'm in a really tough spot. David's maneuvered this really well. Triple Urza Saga, really, really hard to deal with. And I'm just really kicking myself mentally now. I'm like, oh, I had all the cards. I just didn't sequence them right. Thinking about what I should have done as I die to this huge trampling construct. This turn, I've resigned myself because I could only put him to 1 and then die on the backswing. I've resigned myself to blocking, and it doesn't go well. makes a construct, this Saga is going to go grab a Aether Spellbomb. And that card's amazing. It unsummons the Snoop because the Snoop is currently a 3/3. And I believe he shows me that he has an Unholy Heat. Just attack for 1 billion. And my shock last turn and my Kiki Jiki on top have really put me in a corner. If he unsummons my Lord, he tramples over for 1 billion. It's just really, really bad. Go to damage, I say. So we have 10 power here. Gonna Unholy Heat. 2/2. The Harbinger. Probably the Sling Gang. It's tough because he doesn't have a graveyard, so he can only deal 2, and he can't kill the Snoop with it. Hits the Sling Gang. The Ringleader's a 3/3. So commentary comes out and says the Ringleader's a 3/3, and I go, oh yeah, the Ringleader is a 3/3. You're right. Which is crazy because it's one of the only cards he could target that is a 3/3, which is just tough. You know, he looked around for a second before just deciding on a card and happened to pick the one that had a lot of toughness. Go through damage. Very behind. I'm at 3, facing down another gigantic construct. And I will probably concede. He bounced my Snoop. Yeah, he bounced my Snoop so that I can't combo kill on my upkeep. Then passed, and I drew the Kiki Jiki, and now my hand is Leyline, Kiki Jiki, Snoop. Mox Opal's really good. I respect it. I remember losing to it back in the day, and you can't feel bad when you lose to Mox Opal. Play a Kiki Jiki. Does Kiki beat 2 constructs? The answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no when they have Shadow Spear. Shadow Spear is a very good card. Opponent equips the Shadow Spear. Does some quick maths. Tap to target the Sling Gang. In response, Galvanic. Good. And that's the match. Because I can't gain life, and that'll be it. Well played, opponent. Well played. Yeah. David's a great guy. As I said, you know, tested a lot for like team events and stuff. He's one of the close guys with the Flexlot guys, so it's always a fun time to play with them. Shout out to Team Flexlot. Shout out to George Jabor for running the whole crew, being an absolute legend, and shout out to NRG Series for hosting these awesome live streams. It's always awesome to play Magic with friends, and so thank you guys so much for watching. The line is attacking before playing anything. Hope they block the Sling Gang, and then Snoop and Harbinger for another Sling Gang. Since you're on Jund Goblins, you can run Mass Vandal as well as another artifact removal card that also hits Saga. Mass Vandal is a good idea. I forgot that Mass Vandal could hit Saga. Honestly, that's a very good point. When you can Stone Rain your opponent in green, that seems pretty cool. Um, this ain't no Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'm about to chop this up and then release it as some videos. We're gonna do 2 different rounds at the NRG, and yeah, so there's more stuff coming soon. I'm gonna about to make a bunch of YouTube shorts too, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day.